There's something wrong with the new teacher's reflection. A scary story brought to you by Born Storyteller. For more terrifying stories, visit bornstoryteller.com website. Ready? Let's dive in. When Miss Grady first walked into the classroom at Pine Hollow Middle School, every head turned. Not because she was beautiful, though she had a certain pale, glassy look that reminded people of old porcelain dolls, but because something about her felt off. Her eyes were too wide, her smile too stiff, and the way she walked, like she was floating an inch above the floor, sent a cold shiver down the spine of anyone watching closely. But the strangest thing about Miss Grady wasn't her demeanor. It was her reflection. Nobody noticed it at first, but eventually the whispers began. "Have you seen her reflection in the window?" Ellie whispered to her best friend Rachel after class one afternoon. Rachel frowned. "No, what's wrong with it?" Ellie hesitated, glancing around the empty hallway. "It doesn't match her." Rachel rolled her eyes. "You're imagining things." But Ellie wasn't, and soon more students began to notice. When Miss Grady turned her head to write on the board, her reflection in the classroom window stayed still, watching the students with wide, unblinking eyes. When she smiled, her reflection sometimes frowned, and sometimes late in the afternoon when the sun dipped low, her reflection seemed to twitch, its mouth opening and closing silently as though it were trying to speak. By the second week of school, the entire class was on edge. No one wanted to sit in the front row, where you could see Miss Grady's reflection most clearly. No one wanted to be called on by her either, because when she looked directly at you, it felt like she wasn't looking at you, but at something inside you, something dark. Then, one rainy Thursday, Ellie decided to stay after class to confront Miss Grady. She hadn't slept in days, haunted by nightmares of Miss Grady's reflection crawling out of the window, its long clawed fingers reaching for her. She needed answers. "Miss Grady?" Ellie's voice shook as she approached the teacher's desk. Miss Grady turned slowly, her head tilting at an unnatural angle. "Yes, Ellie?" Ellie swallowed hard. I've noticed something strange about your reflection." Miss Grady's smile widened, but her eyes remained cold and lifeless. "Have you, dear? What exactly have you noticed?" Ellie glanced nervously at the window behind Miss Grady. The reflection was there, staring at her with a hollow, hungry expression. But it wasn't mirroring Miss Grady's movements. It was leaning closer, pressing its pale, distorted face against the glass. I think there's something wrong with it," Ellie whispered. Miss Grady chuckled, a low, rasping sound that didn't quite sound human. "Oh, Ellie, there's nothing wrong with my reflection." Ellie took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. "But..." Miss Grady leaned forward, her face inches from Ellie's. Her breath smelled like damp earth and something rotten. "It's not my reflection you're seeing," she hissed. Before Ellie could scream, the lights in the classroom flickered and went out. When they came back on, Miss Grady was gone, but her reflection wasn't. It was still there, pressed against the inside of the window, grinning at Ellie with sharp, jagged teeth. Slowly, it raised one clawed hand and tapped on the glass, the sound echoing through the empty classroom. Tap, tap, tap. Ellie turned and ran, her screams echoing down the hallway, but no one believed her. The next day, Miss Grady was back, standing at the front of the class as though nothing had happened. But Ellie wasn't there to see it. She had disappeared. And when the students glanced nervously at the window that morning, they swore they saw Ellie's reflection trapped on the other side of the glass, her face frozen in a silent scream. Want even more goosebumps? Be sure to visit our collection of scary stories and horror-themed unique prints for more thrilling and chilling experiences at www.bornstoryteller.com. Perfect for any horror enthusiast. Check it out here.